Sourdough baking is one of the most rewarding things you can do in the kitchen, but it's also one of the most frustrating when things go wrong. Trust me, I've been there. Maybe your dough is too sticky, your bread turns out dense, or your crust is too tough. But don't worry, I'm going to walk you through the 10 biggest mistakes that beginner sourdough bakers make so that you can avoid them and start baking incredible bread. Mistake number 1, slicing too soon. I know it's tempting. That fresh baked bread smell is filling the kitchen and you just have to try it. But if you cut into your loaf too soon, you're releasing all the steam that's still working to set the crumb. That's why your bread turns out gummy instead of soft and airy. Instead, let your loaf cool for at least an hour before slicing, ideally 2 if you can wait that long. This allows the moisture to redistribute and the interior to firm up, giving you a much better texture. If the patience is tough, bake at night so you're forced to wait until the morning. Mistake number 2 is ignoring baker's percentages. Baking is a science, and baker's percentages help keep your loaves consistent. Instead of just following a recipe blindly, learning how to calculate ratios will change your baking game. For example, if a recipe calls for 500 grams of flour and 350 grams of water, that is a 70% hydration dough. This percentage-based approach makes it easy to adjust recipes, troubleshoot problems, and experiment with hydration levels. So don't just look at recipes, start thinking in percentages, and you'll have way more control over your dough. Mistake number 3, skipping the auto-lease. If you're skipping the auto-lease step, you're making life harder than it needs to be. Auto-leasing is just mixing your flour and water and letting it rest for 30 to 60 minutes before adding the starter and salt. This rest time allows the flour to hydrate and gluten to develop naturally, making your dough easier to work with and improving the final texture. A dough that skips auto-lease is often harder to shape and may not develop as nice of an open crumb. It takes no extra effort, so why not do it? Just mix your flour and water, walk away, and come back later. It's that simple. Mistake number 4, using too high of a hydration. High hydration doughs are not beginner friendly. You see people on Instagram with these crazy open crumbs and think, I need to go 80% plus hydration right away. But if you're still learning, high hydration will just lead to frustration. A super wet dough is harder to handle, sticks to everything, and can be nearly impossible to shape. Instead, start with a hydration level of 65 to 70%. It's much easier to work with and still gives you an incredible loaf. Once you've mastered shaping and fermentation, you can experiment with going higher. Mistake number 5, forcing the dough schedule to fit yours. Sourdough follows its own timeline, and trying to rush or delay it too much can ruin your bread. If your dough is proofing too fast, putting it in the fridge can slow it down. If it's moving too slow, you might need to keep it in a warmer spot or make sure your starter is active enough. A great trick is to use the fridge overnight for the final proof. This slows the fermentation and makes your baking schedule way more flexible. Plus, it helps develop better flavor. Mistake number 6, not properly flouring your banneton. Ever had a beautifully proofed dough completely stick to the banneton? It is the worst. Before putting your dough into the banneton, make sure it is generously floured so that no dough sticks to the banneton. Mistake number 7, overthinking shaping techniques. There are so many shaping methods, and beginners often stress about doing it perfectly. The key is just to create surface tension so your dough holds its shape. If you're struggling, focus on the basics. Stretch and fold the dough gently, use a bench scraper, and don't overwork it. With practice, shaping becomes second nature. Mistake number 8 is burning the bottom of your loaf. Nothing's worse than baking a gorgeous loaf only to flip it over and see a burnt bottom. This happens because too much direct heat is hitting the base of your bread. To fix this, place a baking sheet underneath your cast iron combo or your Dutch oven, whichever one you are using. This small adjustment will save your loaves. Mistake number 9, using the starter too late. Your starter has a sweet spot. If you use it too late, it won't be as strong. A bubbly starter that collapses is past its peak, and that can lead to weak fermentation and dense bread. The best time to use your starter is when it is at its highest. just before it starts to collapse. If you miss that window, you can always feed it again and wait for it to rise. Mistake number 10, underproofing the dough. Underproofed dough leads to a tight, dense crumb, something every beginner struggles with. A great way to check if your dough is ready is the poke test. Press your finger into the dough. If it springs back immediately, it needs more time. If it barely moves, it is overproofed. You want it to slowly spring back for the perfect balance. Sourdough baking takes practice, but avoiding these 10 common mistakes will put you way ahead of the game. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more sourdough tips. Now go bake some amazing sourdough bread and watch this video for all the sourdough starter basics that you need to know.